Hey, everybody, I'm Leon Thomas with the Leon Thomas Group. We're here tonight for part two of Real Thoughts and Conversations, a special sports edition where we're answering the question talking about the college football selection committee, the college football playoffs, and did the committee get it right? Last night, we had Jasmine Pollock, the host of First Impression Sports Talk, as one of our panelists, along with Anthony Greenfield, a student at Bowie State University, and Cole Brennan, a student at Robert Morris University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Tonight, tonight we have Dr. A.J. Anderson with us, a professor of sport management at Bowie State University in Bowie, Maryland, and hotel industry veteran Chris Adams. And so we're going to bring Chris and Dr. Anderson into the studio now. And as we get the show started, we're going to start with you, Chris. You have 30 seconds to answer this question. And we're going to get deeper into it as we move along, but answer this question, Chris. Did the college football committee get it right? Did they get it right, Chris? Go.
Well, first and foremost, good evening to everyone on the call tonight. I don't even need 30 seconds to tell you unequivocally, undeniably, they did not, and I repeat, did not get it right. I think that there was definitely some omissions there. One notable omission, which I'm sure we will kind of get into that a little further, but no, sir, they did not get it right.
They didn't get it right. And let's go to Dr. A.J. Anderson. Same question for you. In the four teams selected in the playoffs, Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama. Dr. Anderson, did they get it right?
Hello, everyone. You know what? I do not think that they have the four best teams in college football playoff. I don't.
All right.
I don't need 30 seconds either.
You don't need 30 seconds either.
He came straight to the point.
Now, here's what I hope is interesting, though. Now, last night, the students and interns on the show, they said they got it right, and they kind of explained why they thought they had it right. And one of the strong sentiments was, hey, look, somebody was going to get left out anyway. Now, I want to hear, Dr. Anderson, we're starting with you on this one. Tell our audience what they didn't get right. And audience, those of you that are watching, chime in, ask your questions in a form of a comment. Let me hear what you have to say. We want you to be a part of it too. So, Dr. Anderson, you go first. Tell me, what did they get wrong? Who's not in that ought to be in? What do you think?
Well, I tell you, I think this is definitely a tough decision. I'm glad I'm not on that committee. If I was, though, definitely would make sure I would put my opinion in there. But a lot of facts, you have to go through a lot of that. But I think there just needed to be they need to look at a decision and say, all right, are you looking at the best four teams that get in there, the most talented four teams, or most deserving four teams? So I won't say I'm completely disappointed with that, because I think they got four good teams in there. But to be completely honest, I really feel that Georgia is a top four team. I understand that they lost to Alabama, and it just becomes hard because if you can't, I don't see how you can put Georgia in if you put Alabama in, and putting Alabama in, you have to put in Texas because Texas beat Alabama head to head. I understand it happened early in September, and I do think Alabama was a different team then, but understanding the whatever they have to go through to make those decisions. But I feel that Alabama is a top four team, but I feel like Georgia is a top four team. You know, you look at Florida State. Are they deserving of it? Yes. I do feel that they're deserving of it. But I think that I wonder if some people were worried about just like last year with TCU. if there were, because TCU lost by, what was that, 50 something?
65-3.
Yes. So I wonder if that played a part in it, because they may have not have felt it.
So who's not in that you think should be in?
That's in my opinion, I would say the 4 best teams would be Washington, Michigan, Georgia, and Alabama. That's
Georgia
yes, that would be
Texas.
But I understand. But I understand Texas won the Big 12 and they beat Alabama, so I understand why they put Texas in there. But you can't. I don't know how you can put Alabama above Texas when you have to look at the head-to-head matchup.
Okay,
so I get it.
All right.
I get it.
So Georgia ought to be in. Texas ought to be out. Chris, what do you think? Who's not in that ought to be there?
Florida State, without question. And here's my and I'm listening to the doc there, and I can't totally disagree with him. But the one thing I will say is in my humble opinion, I don't think Georgia should have gotten in, and the reason why. When it came down to it, when you actually had the most important game of the season and you actually lost, I thought it was appropriate that they actually did not get in. My whole reason for saying that Florida State should have gotten in, irregardless of who was injured, irregardless if they were on their third string quarterback, Florida State was undefeated. They were undefeated. No one beat them this year. They were actually beat by a selection committee who perhaps did have the memories of last year in their mind, who perhaps tried to consider that perhaps, based on the quarterback situation for Florida State, that maybe they would not be competitive. But I think you have to look at the overall body of work. You go back to the NBA for just one moment. One of the things that the NBA does throughout that long regular season is to get enough victories to get home court advantage. There has to be an advantage to win. And so I think with Florida State, they won every single game that they played. Every team that was presented in front of them, they defeated, irregardless of what the score was. When the game was over, they were on top. So I think Alabama was beneficiaries, and I can't fault them for doing this, but they were beneficiaries of a huge lobbying effort and a huge pedigree, from years past. But I didn't think Alabama belonged this year.
Okay. Now let's dig in deeper to this Florida State issue, right? A lot of people say that Florida State played a weak ACC schedule, right? I hear some people saying that. And I also hear people saying the same thing as you did, Chris, that look, they're undefeated and doesn't matter who the quarterback is, that the team is still winning and that it takes more than just one player to have a football team win. What about their defense? What about the other players, right? But folks are charming on this. Florida State plays in the weak ACC, but didn't the ACC have, when they went head-to-head this year against the SEC, didn't the ACC win more games? I thought I read that somewhere this year, that head-to-head, ACC versus SEC, the ACC was 9-7 in those games. So
I'm not sure of the exact number there, but I go back to the fact that the ACC is a very strong conference. They are actually, very, very competitive with any and all conferences. And Florida State was, once again, the cream of the crop with regards to the ACC. Mm-hmm. And so I go back to the fact that you have to look at the entire body of work. Don't project what you think is going to happen, but actually reflect on what did happen. And so I think that's why I am very strong and certainly biased, as I'm an ACC fan, but I felt their overall body of work certainly qualified them to be in there. The irony, and probably another conversation piece, is that the chairman of the committee that selected that is actually the athletic director at NC State, a ACC school.
Uh-oh. Now it gets deeper. It gets deeper. Now, Dr. Anderson, what do you think? Tell me your thoughts on this
No.
Florida State issue? I mean, is it about the quarterback? Was it about the Alabama cachet? What about it? Where's Florida State here in your mind? What do you think should have happened here?
You know what? I think they were very deserving to get in there. I do. You were a Power 5 conference champion. You went undefeated. You beat everybody you played. No matter what league you're in. I don't think that the ACC was as strong. It was. I don't think it was as strong as the SEC, the top schools, or the Big Ten, or even the Pac-12. And I'm not a huge Pac-12 fan. I'll be honest with you. I don't think they play defense out there. That's why they score tons of points. But they beat everybody on their schedule. Their quarterback got hurt. I would think that, in my humble opinion, I think that played a role in them not getting in. And I just think that people were afraid to put them in, because if they get blown out, then people say, oh, the committee got it wrong. They shouldn't have put Florida State in there because they didn't play an SEC schedule or but it is really it's tough. If I was at Florida State, I would be upset because I beat everybody in the schedule and I'm a Power 5 champion. And I mean, they beat LSU, who was, I think they were ranked 11th, something like that. So they were a top 15 program. So were they top 5? No. Were they top? But they beat everybody on their schedule and they were deserving of it. I still, in my opinion, don't think that they would be a top 4 team, but they were definitely deserving of getting that opportunity in the college football playoff.
All right. Now let's look at 3 comments here. One, Dr. J, our producer, would you please show that one from Delrico Fletcher? It says it's TCU's fault. They didn't want to repeat. Right? What was the score of the game last year? What, 59 to -3 or something?
65-3. And so 50. He brings up a good point. You look at, for example, Duke. Duke was originally going, and I can't even pronounce the bowl game they were going to go to, and they were going to actually have a repeat matchup with UCF out of Orlando. And so they decided they did not want a repeat game between them, and so they sent them to, I think, Alabama to play.
Okay.
So his point is valid.
Yeah. I received a text message from someone, and Delrico is saying it was 65. Is that right? Is Dr. J, can you deflate that second? We have 65-7. So either way, that's a really lopsided score.
Yes.
Right? I got a text message from someone who says, Leon, I cannot come on the show because I'm at work. But the question they raised is, how does Michigan get in and they cheated? The scandal. Why are they? How did they even get in with the cheating stuff? What are you going to do? They win a championship? You're going to take the title away from them later? How do they even get in? What's the guidelines, the rules around all of that? How does that work? Dr. Anderson, quickly take like a minute and explain to us how that goes. And Chris, you chime in too after Dr. Anderson on this one.
Well, this was they had a punishment this was handed down from the Big Ten. This scandal, honestly, I think all schools are looking for competitive advantages. They're probably the only school that got caught. They may have went a little bit further, but every coach at all sports, they're always looking for competitive advantages. And whether Harbaugh knew about it or not.
Wait. I don't cheat as a racquetball coach.
But you want a competitive advantage. That doesn't mean that you're cheating. That doesn't mean that you're cheating. But you want to have a competitive advantage over your opponent.
Okay, you're right. I got you.
And I think that they wanted to be able to hand down some type of punishment now instead of later, because you wait for the NCAA, and what'll happen is that is drawn out, and they may not get a conclusion until a year from now. Okay. So I think that there was a lot of pressure from the other schools in the Big Ten, and because there were some, I know they had the allegations, but there was something that they found valid, so they suspended him, the head coach, for 3 games. But I don't feel like it was. Obviously, it wasn't enough to say, all right, we're going to kick them out of the playoffs. And ultimately, like, the students they're playing, and it is hard because I hate to have students not being able to get out there when they deserve it, because they're a really good football team, Michigan, and they got some players.
Chris, what do you think about this Michigan deal?
No, I actually agree with AJ, and I think that, you know, if the NCAA had come down with some sort of punishment, then obviously they probably would have been deemed ineligible. But they haven't ruled on them. So I think that Michigan tried to get in front of it. There obviously was some pressure from the conference. So yeah, I for one, you know, I think that, you know, whether or not they should have been ineligible or not, I think it really should have been based on the fact of what was the official stance of the NCAA. Did they rule on these allegations? And so I think until you do that, then I think there is a, you know, for lack of a better phrase, a presumption of innocence, you know, until they actually come to their foregone conclusion.
Okay.
Due process.
Yeah. There was a comment from Del Rico. Dr. J, could you show that one again, please? It talked about something about the Godfather.
Mm-hmm.
Money is a big factor in all of it. And we know that. Along with Nick Saban being the Godfather of football. And if he has the opportunity, they will definitely put his team in. Chris?
I said it earlier. He lobbied very hard, and there, you know, they have a certain pedigree based on what they've done over the last 10 years. And so, you know, I don't fault him for fighting for his team. And I don't, you know, that's a head coach's job to, you know, to fight for, you know, the best bowl, the best ranking, the best, you know, competitive advantage, as we said before. So I certainly don't fault him or his strategy whatsoever. And in my humble opinion, it clearly worked.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Anderson, what do you think about the Godfather getting in there? Did that have something to do with it? Because it's Saban?
You know what? He's a winner, and he won the SEC championship. You know, his team has been playing well the last half of the season, and yes, you know what? They ended up winning on the last second play at the end of the game, but that's versus a conference. That's a rivalry, you know. So no matter how good or bad teams are, you're always going to compete, and they're going to give you everything you got. But they're a heck of a football team. And you know, there was one thing I saw on social media, and they had mentioned, and this is not Alabama, but if Deion Sanders was the coach at Florida State, would they have gotten in with that name?
Yeah.
You know?
No, yeah.
You know, that's an interesting point.
Yeah, good point. We have an image that's been going around on social media, and what it says is the NFL playoff committee will now have to vote out the Jaguars from playoff contention despite their record because Trevor Lawrence is injured. So to go along with this whole Florida State deal, I mean, come on. My thing is, I just think they played a weak schedule. Come on, they played North Alabama, who ended up losing the Little Sisters of the Poor later on in the season. Okay, but to say they're not a good team or not as good because they're third string, didn't they win like 2 games with him? Where they and they say the second string quarterback's supposed to be coming back anyway. I just think that's just bad. I think that's bad to kind of predict what's going to happen instead of going by what has happened. Now, I'm not saying they should be in. Don't misunderstand, though. Go ahead.
To your point, Leon, I think you bring up a very good point. You know, how does a team handle adversity? Okay, the first string quarterback went down, and I felt terrible for him. You know, he put something out on Twitter. Or X, excuse me, you know, apologizing for getting hurt too early in the season or when he got hurt. But the point is, he went down. They brought the second string quarterback in. They continue to win. He had a concussion. They brought the third string quarterback in. They continue to win. You know, the thing that you put up there with Jaguar, I have to laugh at that. You go back to 1972, the only team in the history of the National Football League that's ever gone coast to coast undefeated was the Miami Dolphins. And for a good portion of that season, they actually played and won with their second string quarterback. So I think, once again, as important as that position is, it's not going to always be a make or break.
Didn't know that.
Bob
Chris?
Griese went down. I think he went down in like game 4 or 5. And then Earl Morrall, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, 38, 39 years old, was the backup and actually led them into the playoffs. And Griese came back and they ended up winning the Super Bowl.
Wow. Chris dropping the knowledge. Wow. Dropping the knowledge.
And I'm going to add to that. I'm going to be more recent, though, with the Eagles. When the Eagles won their Super Bowl with Nick Foles as the backup quarterback.
That's right. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
So we have to go back and take those Super Bowl victories away based on what's happening now, right? We go back and snatch them because you didn't have your top your top player, right?
They should have been deemed ineligible to go into the playoffs. You're right.
That's right. That's right. Deemed ineligible.
Yeah, it is. It's tough. I honestly I feel like Florida State definitely was deserving of it.
Right.
I don't think that they were the top 4 teams, and that's my opinion, but they were deserving. They were undefeated. They beat everybody on their schedule. They were a Power 5 champion. So if they would have got in, I would not have been. I'm fine who they pick now, but so.
Okay. All right, folks, I'm Leon Thomas. You're watching a special sports edition of Real Thoughts and Conversations. We're joined by Dr. A.J. Anderson and Chris Adams in this conversation where we're talking about, did the college football committee get it right? If you'd like to chime in, make sure you go over to the comments section. If you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you are, there's a comment button there. You put in your comments and we're going to share them right here on the show as long as they're clean. We'll show those comments and even have some discussion about them. So now I'm going to throw another question to our panelists, to Chris and Dr. Anderson. That question is this: for this committee, and I know we're going to 12 teams next year, and we're still going to have the same conversations. Team 13 and 14 didn't get in, so we're still going to have these conversations. We're going to have conversations about seeding. They should have been number 1. They should have been number 5. We're always going to have this, and I think it makes for good conversation. But here's the question on the table now. 2-part question. Number 1, should the committee try to get the best 4 teams, or should it be based on teams with the best record or some criteria that they have attached to what puts them in, and some type of tie-breaking system? If both teams end up with the same number of quality points, here's how we were going to select between numbers 4 and 5. Who gets 4, who gets 5? That's kind of the first part. And then moving into next year, should we have AI figure this out for us? And I'm not talking about Allen Iverson. I'm talking about some type of artificial intelligence. Do it for us, and let's leave the people part out of this. So, who wants to go first on that one? It's kind of an expanded answer. Who wants to take a snatch at that one first?
Let me take that if I can, AJ.
Yeah.
I'm going to answer your second question first. Leave AI out of it. I think good, bad, or indifferent. I like the human element of trying to determine, who should actually, be in the mix. It's almost like taking referees out of the game and having a computer, try to ref the game. You need that human component there, and it's not going to be perfect. I think the first question, I don't even know if I would have gone with 12 teams. I think I might have gone 6 or 8. But you're right. There always are going to be, teams that are on the outside looking in. On an unrelated matter, it's interesting that you're supposed to have at least 6 victories to be bowl eligible. Did you gentlemen know we actually have a team that is 5-7 that will be playing in the I want to say it's the Quicken Bowl in Detroit. It's Minnesota. 5-7. And what set them apart, because they didn't have enough teams that were 6-6, is their graduation or overall team average was the highest. And so that's what got them in, which was academics. And I must say that I actually appreciated the fact that that was under consideration, because we are talking about student athletes. But I digress. So I do think that you're always going to have controversy as far as somebody who's lobbying or thinks they should be out, but leave AI out of it.
Leave AI out of it. All right, Dr. Anderson, what do you think? All of those pieces. What do you think?
I agree. Leave AI out of it. I do. I think just the human component is important. I think that even in Major League Baseball now, they're talking about having umpires, like saying balls and strikes. I don't think that is correct. Now, humans, we don't get it perfect, but I just feel like you having that human component in it it's real. It's reality. AI just not a huge fan of it. I'll be honest. I'm still not a fan of teams at 5-7, 6-6, 7-5 making bowl games. I understand it's about money. It is, but we are celebrating mediocrity. So you are 7-5, you're 6-6. You deserve to get into a bowl game. Make it more challenging. Win 8 games. But I get it. It's about money. You want to do that, so I get that. But I don't think you deserve. If you're a 500 team, you don't deserve to go play in a bowl.
There's no bowl game. There's no bowl game.
But then regarding the question that you asked, the first question is, I think that you need to a combination of both. So there some criteria as well as the best 4 teams, because you could have one of the best 4 teams have 2 losses, but if there are teams that are just as good who have none, who did not undefeated or have 1 loss, then that's part of the. I don't want to say if you're 2 losses you're out, but understanding, I feel that you want to be able to showcase your best team. It's about entertainment, right? So you want to be able to showcase your best teams, your best athletes, your best coaches. If that's your top 4, then that's what it is. But having some criteria, you need to be able to include that. And that's where I don't know all of, like, they'll show like some of the criteria that they have for the committee for the playoff. But I think you need to look at both the who are the best teams, the eye test. You look at who's the eye test, and then let's look at some other criteria. And I can't sit here and say, all right, I know all the criteria, but you want to look at, number one is who you played. Are you undefeated? Do you have 1 loss? Who's your loss to? Is it a head-to-head to anybody else, any of the other top 4? But I think you almost need a combination of both. And this is the human. I feel like having that humans do that instead of AI, instead of computers doing that. That's where I feel like you can put some emotion into it, which I know from an AI standpoint is great because you don't put any emotion into it, but understanding the eye test is important.
All right. Now I want to give a shout out to Jasmine Pollock. Both of you know Jasmine. Chris, I think you were actually on Jasmine's first show.
I think I was.
Right, a couple of years ago. Jasmine now works for Fox Sports in DC.
Awesome.
And she still does some work here with us. But on Saturday night, she made a post on LinkedIn and said we would have Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama. She called it. She called it.
Yeah. She did.
Yes. She called it. So be sure to watch Jasmine's show. It's called First Impression Sports Talk. If you go to YouTube and search First Impression Sports Talk, you're going to see the show, and you'll hear her talk about, hey, look, these are the teams that I selected. And Chris, also, Jasmine had an interview with Chip Rogers. the president and CEO of the American Hotel and Lodging Association, because he's been making some sports post on LinkedIn, and Jasmine contacted him to say, hey, how about coming on the show? I can't get him to come on checking in a lodging DEI chat, a hotel show, but he comes on Jasmine's sports show. So I'm happy for her, and I'll contact Chris. Let's get him on.
Well, here's what I would do. I would reach out to Jasmine and see if she can make the arrangements. She's clearly the mover and shaker here.
Yeah, obviously so.
Gets it done.
Yes, obviously so. She becomes my booking agent.
There you go. I would be on that show.
Yes, and also want to talk about our other students before we go on to take a look at some of the comments that have come in. We want to give a shout out to Cole Brennan, a student at Robert Morris University in Pittsburgh. I tell you what, Cole, all three of them that were on this show last night, they're gonna do some really great things in sports. But you talk about having some opinions and being opinionated about things. Wow, Cole just brings it, right? This team sucks. But he goes with here's why, right? He really, really lays it out there. And Anthony Greenfeld, who was on the show, one of your students, Dr. Anderson, and you heard me make the shout out to everyone last night that when someone comes to speak to your class, and networking is real, right? Look at some great things that have happened with him. Let's take a look at some comments here. Let's go through that whole the last 3 or 4, Dr. J. I didn't get a chance to comment on those about. All right, I love Michigan. I'm Michigan. I'm a Big Ten guy. Go Rutgers. Here's somebody giving a shout out to the State University of New Jersey, Rutgers, who they did go to the Sweet 16 in basketball last year. But other than that, and tiddlywinks, they ain't done nothing since 1976. Maybe they'll get it right in football coming up soon. What's our next one on the line there, Dr. J? I feel bad for Florida State because they did what they were asked to do. And then you say it's not pretty enough. That's right. Only in college football could this happen. So I agree with that. What's the next one here, Dr. J? Let's keep them rolling through. I'm loving this show. Thank you, Del Rico. Tell all your friends we'll be back probably later this week or next week, but we're going to start doing this show more consistently. It looks like maybe every Wednesday night. Looking forward to having you watch. And Del Rico, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, or anyone would like to be a guest on the show, email me. My email address is leon@theleonthomasgroup.com. And any other comments there from Ms. Gordon? My neighbor is thrilled that the Texas Longhorns made it. Yes, they're all. What do they do here? Is that what they do? Is that it? Yeah, something like that. Yeah, they are happy. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, guys, we're going to make a quick turn. We have about 6 minutes left. We're going to make a quick turn. All right, let's talk a little NFL. Dr. Anderson, who's your favorite NFL team?
I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
All right, I'll pray for you. So, you're a Steeler fan. The Steelers play New England this week.
Yes.
Dr. J, our producer, says the score is going to be 3-0 in overtime. What are you predicting on this?
Listen, they're gonna score. They're gonna score at least one touchdown. So I'm thinking 16-9, maybe.
16-9. And Belichick after the game. Did y'all see the press conference after Sunday's game? No. They said, "Are you disappointed in whatever?" And he goes, "I don't know." It was typical Belichick. Chris, who's your favorite NFL team?
You know, and I'm going to say this, even though they've got such a dysfunctional owner right now. You know, I'm from North Carolina, so I'm going to stay with the Panthers, but obviously they've had a rough year. You know, I think the word on the street is that the owner wants to be the head football coach. So, you know, I guess he can actually have that dual role.
Okay, shout out.
So, oh man, so we've got Miss Gordon saying "Go Steelers."
Yes,
That's
I
my
love it.
team.
I like
All
that.
right, all right. So now let's go to Charlotte here. They have what nine head coaches still on payroll because they let them all go,
They let them all go.
right?
And I mean, since the owner took over in 2018, he actually has a soccer team and a football team, and he's fired 5 coaches since he took over in 2018.
Wow, wow.
And,
All right.
and he actually did. It was reported that he was actually sitting in place. So I do think he's got a childhood fantasy to actually be a head football coach.
Well, is he playing with the 1970s NFL magnetic board
He's
where
got the electric football man.
he's
You're
he's
taking
going,
me back to the
he
70s
says,
now.
"Hey, go down to the Ford and make a right."
No, he is a champion of. You remember paper football, where you actually get to sit
Yes,
on a
yep.
table and play paper football.
Yeah.
He is a 3-time champion of that, I suppose.
Is that what it is? Wow, here's another Steeler comment. The offense is better since Matt Canada is gone. But scratching the head over Trubisky. Everyone, I want you to. I'll post it on my YouTube. I want you to see the video that Cole Brennan made the day that Matt Canada got fired. I'll find it. I'll post it on
Okay.
my YouTube channel. All right, final NFL question, guys, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Who's gonna win the Super Bowl?
My pick is the San Francisco 49ers. I've thought that from day one. Last year, I know Brock Purdy got hurt versus the Eagles in the playoff game. I just think they are a complete football team. They can run the football, they can throw it. Brock Purdy's a solid quarterback, and defensively, they get after you.
All right, Chris, who's going to win the Super Bowl?
You know, this is more of an emotional choice, but I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to do it.
Ooh, the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Finally, after all these years.
All these years, yeah.
Dak Prescott.
Ooh, after all these years. Darlene Gordon says she's hoping for the Eagles. I'm going to call it right now. I'm going to tell you 2 things. Number 1, the Ravens will not make it to the AFC Championship game.
Okay.
Especially
if they have to play
the Steelers.
That last Sunday game, right? And the Detroit Lions are going to win the Super Bowl. The Detroit Lions, you heard it right here tonight, Tuesday, December 5th at 8:41
Let me make sure I'm hearing this right.
Eastern Time. Save the tape, Dr. J, mark it in the show so we can take it and run it and take some 2-minute clips out of here. I said the Detroit Lions are going to win the Super Bowl.
Well, if that's the case, then I think the Carolina Panthers are going to get in as a wild card, and they're 1-10.
Sid, you're really reaching.
Okay, all right, guys. We'll come back after the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with D. Gordon. You are reaching. Yes, you are reaching.
Wow. We'll see. And Dr. Gordon, the invitation's available to you too for our next one. Love to have you on as a part of our show. Guys, thanks for a great conversation. Chris Adams, Dr. AJ Anderson. Hey Chris, let's talk next time. Let's talk about
finance.
Let's talk about finance, sports finance. Chris Adams, Dr. AJ Anderson, thank you both for being on the show. Don't run away. Stay in the green room. After the show, we'll catch up for just a couple of minutes.
Sounds good.
Thank you to our producer, Dr. Jay Rasenko, on the controls, doing an outstanding job again. And thanks again to Dr. Anderson and Chris Adams for being on the show. And thank you for watching. Tell a friend. Tell your enemies too. Tell them to be sure to check out everything we're doing at the Leon Thomas Group. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good night. Here we go.